Leicester City nil, Man United 3. A gulf in quality. That is all we can say for our own substitutions that we made, and most importantly, the difference in Leicester City's levels and our levels. Defensively, we were superior. Offensively, we were superior. Now, how so, you might say? First of all, let me give credit to somebody I've given a very hard time for. That is Ruben Amorim. Now, I'm not saying we are back. I'm not saying I'm not manager out anymore. All I'm saying is he is showing me signs that I can slowly, slyly back. And remember, guys, this is the same set of players. In fact, maybe with even more injuries that he's playing better with. Remember when around the time of the Spurs game, everybody was saying, oh, Ruben has too many injuries and that's why he can't play system. That's why we're failing. Well, if you look at it now, take that squad that we had back then. Ahmad's out, Kobe's out, Lenny Yoro's been out, and now the new addition that came in, Ayden Heaven, is also injured. Now you take that squad and compare it to this squad. That squad is well superior. We couldn't play football with that one. But now apparently we're playing at least slightly decent football with this one. So that makes you think it was always the manager, wasn't it? But the one credit I will give Ruben Amorim is he found a system that is working for the players that maybe doesn't exactly align with what he wanted. He wanted something involving high running, high pressing, He wanted a completely different system. He wanted a system that involves a high press, that involves suffocating the centre backs and the full backs and the centre mids and essentially closing them into one space and then making them crack under pressure. Something like what Liverpool used to do in 2018. Now, the more that we see this football, we see that isn't possible with this set of players. Why? Because they are not runners. They do not have that engine. And the only players that do have the engine, like your Mason Mount, like Højlund, those guys aren't good enough. So ultimately, Amorim has had to compromise. And yeah, it might have taken a month. It might have taken a month and a half. But the most important thing that we haven't seen with Ten Hag, we haven't seen with Ole, is that they do somewhat get there. The last, I would say, 5 games, Ruben has played a low block. A low block, no high intensity, no tippy-tappy football, just a low block, counter when needed, defend as a unit, attack as a unit, and progress the ball through the midfield with speed. The thing I was most impressed with was, in this system, I would say the most fundamental player that we have right now is Patrick Dorgu. And Dorgu didn't play today. We still scored 3 goals without Patrick Dorgu. Remember, guys, we are not somewhere in the top 4. We are still around, I didn't check the table, but we were somewhere around 13th or 14th. And we still beat Leicester 3-0, exactly like we did at Old Trafford. Which means this team is learning things from Amorim. Things that can be applied in the real scenarios. The thing was, let's be honest, this wasn't the Leicester of old. This is not the Leicester with Mahrez. This is not the Leicester with Vardy, Kante, not even Kasper Schmeichel. And later on, you can see even Maddison, Tielemans. Those teams used to cause us a lot of problems. Sometimes we would win. Sometimes we would lose. Sometimes we would draw. They've dumped us out of FA Cups. They've dumped us out of Carabao Cups. They've beaten us in the league. We've beaten them in the league. It was a very close contest. But ever since 2022, the last time they got relegated, that is, it's been a no contest every single time we play Leicester. You think about it this season. First game, Root comes in. His first game, we win 5-2. Then, I think it was Root's 4th game. We play Leicester again in the league. 3-0 win. Now, we take it back to their place. And, okay, we might not be on mega form. We are on the start of a little bit of form. And then we don't have Patrick Dorgu. Now we show up to King Power Stadium and we put in a reasonable performance in the first half. A performance we can say, you know what, there's building blocks. We can actually do something with this. Then the first goal comes in. Was that Bruno takes the ball? And yeah, maybe the Leicester players should have been able to clear it. Either ways, ball gets through, Højlund gets it, and then bottom corner finish. Later on in the second half, again, Højlund, Garnacho scores. Apparently it's offside, but by a millimeter, like that's by a millimeter. And we don't get the second goal. Now, give it another few minutes. Garnacho scores again. Then Bruno scores again. But you know what? At this point, I don't mind. I'm not looking for tippy-tappy football because if I wanted that, I would be waiting at least until next season. If you try to incorporate that system now, these players will drown again. In fact, we'll go worse than what we were before this. If you thought losing 2 0 to Newcastle, if you thought losing 3 0 to Bournemouth in December was bad, if we try to actually play football with this team, we'll struggle way more. So the only thing we can do is just persist with this system. This low block, it's working. And as long as Amorim sticks to this, I think we might win the Europa League. Because when we come up against real European football playing sides, we just drop that low block in. You can't break us. And speaking of this low block, who has been pretty essential in this low block? Who has been performing well in this low block? It's Ayden Heaven. Even in this game, 2 clean challenges he puts in. If he doesn't make those challenges, I think we concede. And then, just at the start of the second half, he gets stretchered away. When you see players being taken off that way, stretchered off without much notice, I would say the season's over. We'll be lucky to see him again this season, but if not, recuperate, come back next season. As long as he hasn't ruptured any ligaments, then he should be good. Otherwise, let's say he has. All we can hope is it's not any ACL or nothing like that, because if that's the case, it's not just the fact that he'll take some time to come back, but will he be the same player when he comes back? Which is already a fear I have for Ahmad, because we know how good Ahmad is. But after such an injury, after another injury he got around the start of Ten Hag's time, multiple injuries of the same grade can actually do your muscle in, which means you will be injury prone, way more injury prone. 3 major injuries is bad. And with Ayden Heaven, this is his first one. Let's just hope he comes back. No problems at all. Surgery is done and he's given time to relax and come back in his own time. This guy, Ayden Heaven, has impressed me way more than I expected. He was good against Arsenal. He was good against Sociedad. Even today, up to the injury, he was pretty good. And I have not expected this from a centre-back. Now, after seeing Euro, after seeing Heaven, my expectations for a centre-back at 18-year-old is high up. Because now I've seen, not one, I've seen 2 centre-backs at my club who are 18 and 19 who have performed to that high level that I expect from an average defender. So I'm saying, if you can perform that way, then the next one that comes in should be performing the same way. And once Ayden Heaven went off, then Mazraoui dropped in on the left and we looked pretty okay. The best thing I can say is that we have not missed Lisandro Martinez. He got injured and now we're saying who's going to be his replacement at left centre-back. Now Heaven has stepped in, Euro stepped in when needed, Mazraoui has stepped in when needed. We have pretty good depth as centre-back. You might say, considering the fact that we have conceded so many goals, that our defence is to blame for this, but we all know where the real blame lies. That's in the midfield. When I mean midfield, I mean the pivot. When I mean the pivot, I mean Ugarte. The more I saw Bruno and Casemiro play in the pivot, the more I've seen Eriksen perform. The more I see Collier play every single week. The more I understand we don't even need Ugarte to start with. Drop in Casemiro and Collier, and we should be good for the rest of the season, at least in the Premier League. And when it goes into the Europa League, you drop Bruno, you play Casemiro and dictate from there. Because when Ugarte plays there, we cannot have any kind of control of the ball. What's Ugate's job? Just crunch into players, make sure that momentum is lost. Which is why I would say from Ugarte, we expect a lot more. If he does not shape up, if he does not become more of a passer next season, I would say he becomes a bench player automatically. So yeah, it was just a solid win. Now international break is coming. At least this is an international break now we're not looking forward to, which couldn't be said about the last 3 at least. And now the most important thing is, now that we have that international break, whoever's left back in England, give them the rest and also let them understand the system. Teach them things that would help them play the system better, so that when the people who come from international duty, whether that's Dallo, Bruno, Dogu, teach these guys the system when they come back. All I can say is at least we put ourselves in a decent position where at least we go into the international break with some positivity. No doom and gloom here, guys. So, it was Leicester 0, Man United 3. Now, we'll come back 2 weeks later from international break against Forest. And we have a 5-game run of Forest away, City at home, Lyon away, Newcastle away, and then Lyon at home. 5 games which will make or break our season. Notably the Europa League games, but I would even say as far as the Premier League now. I just checked the table just a few minutes ago. You know what I saw? We are only 11 points off Man City in I think 4th or 5th. And 5th place might guarantee you Champions League football. 11 points, you might think, okay, there's only 9 games left. 9 games, 11 points in this Premier League climate. In a climate where City is inconsistent, where Newcastle is inconsistent, where Chelsea is inconsistent, where Bournemouth is inconsistent, where Villa is inconsistent. 11 points can be made on 5th place. Challenge is though, when a Europa League game comes in and when a Premier League game comes in, we have to prioritize the Europa League. Because if you ask me now, look at our fixtures. We still have to play Bournemouth, we still have to play Brentford, we still have to play City, Chelsea and Newcastle. So it's not even an easy run that we have. We have an extremely tough run. But hypothetically, if we were to make it through unscathed, then we have a chance at Europe. That's all I'm saying, guys. Anyway, Leicester 0, Man United 3, and see you on the next.